Hi, Rich Hoffman here with Jennifer Gross, the fantastic representative in my district, but also of Southern Ohio. And she just returned from a visit to Washington, D.C. She's hanging out with Lee Zeldin and the gang and talking EPA stuff and important things and how things get divvied up between the EPA, how to be more pro-business, how to make Ohio more pro-business, starting with a lot of regulations that were put forth that we now have to sort through and try to make a conducive environment for people to invest and start businesses.
That's right.
So you were talking with Lee.
Yeah, Director Zeldin and Lutnick, and they were just amazing. And I think, my major takeaway, and I'm sure we'll dig into more details, Rich, but man, this administration is everything we think they are in a good way. They are on it. They are ready to move. They are not a huge bureaucracy that's going to take, as our senator says, the speed of government. It's the speed of business. And it is. They're moving, they're shaking, they're right on it. And the reason they brought us all up there to DC was to hear what are the issues with Ohio? What are specific to Ohio? What are the things that we need to do? And they were responsive. They've already responded to me. Several of them have responded from Secretary Kennedy's office.
So you talked to Kennedy.
Yep, I sure did.
It's kind of good to be able to have access to all these people and they make themselves available. And it's one thing to hear the press releases from the Trump administration that they're going to do all these things.
Yeah.
But then you're a boots on the ground person. You're our representative. You and I have talked about EPA issues, things that we need to solve just to make business.
That's right.
And usually people talk tough and they say a lot of funny things. And you were in DC with some other representatives from the area, and it's boots on the ground, solve problems as you go.
Yeah.
And you were a part of it.
Yep.
And you're saying that they're not a bunch of phonies.
No.
And that's not just because we're cheerleading the administration.
Yeah.
You're actually, we're well into 2025 now. And it's time to start getting things done.
That's right.
So
That's
your
right.
impression is what?
My impression was that they're not just a bunch of stuffed shirts. They were they had all the staffers and legislative liaisons in the room, and the directors are talking, and he's like, get on that. I have, as you know, I have an aerospace business that had some issues that we hadn't been able to get fixed at the state level. The director's like, I need you to get on with her and talk about that. It was clear to me that it is a bunch of bureaucracy that is telling you what you want to hear, and then nothing's going to get done. It is clear to me because the director has already asked about that issue in the 5 days or 4 days since then, that they are on it, and they will not stop until they get
So they followed up with you, and it's been active since you've returned back home.
I mean, how many times do you hear, whatever office it is, you call a state bureaucracy or you call a bureaucrat and they go, yeah, 3 bags full, and then you never hear another word. It's not like that with the Trump administration. I walked away literally jazzed about the fact that what I believe in our district, in District 45, which is Ohio House District 45, that our president, not only is he saying he's going to get the job done, but he has appointed people in his administration. This guy, the director of the EPA, is retired Navy. So being retired Air Force, I'm like, yeah. And they're working, and they aren't just working 8 to 5. They aren't just working 9 to 4. They're working around the clock because they know they're limited in their time. They're limited in the ability they have. And let's just go back a little, Rich. How many months have they been in? They were sworn in, the 25th of January?
Yeah, it hasn't been long. This is August now.
Yeah, 7 months they've been in office, and they realize they're limited in time. They're going to get the job done. And I think that really, when they set the example at the federal level, I think the people of my district and Ohio need to be jazzed about the fact that we have a president and an administration that isn't just a bunch of words, they're doers, and they're getting that job done, and they're going to work. Now, they have to work there are still bureaucrats all over DC, right, that want to stop the success of this administration. So they want to make them look like they can't get the job done. That's called the fog of war. And so they've got to work within the challenges of the opposition that is there that wants them not to get the job done. But I am so, I believe our future's never been brighter. And I've walked away from DC feeling like my policy in Ohio is the majority like DC, and that Trump's going to get the job done, that his administration is 100% behind him. And it was really encouraging.
So that's not you just being, 'cause you have in your position and just by nature of how you handle your life, you have access to celebrity figures a lot. You have them on your phone, you text them all the time. This isn't just being starstruck,
No.
Jennifer.
No.
Just hey, wow! These are the Trump people, and this is great.
That's right.
This
That's
is the honeymoon's over. We're actually getting to work, and people are engaged and responding to your calls, because the issue you and I were talking about is it's a particle count issue on how many particles you're allowed to emit into the atmosphere for something, and some arbitrary number was created to really frustrate that kind of business.
That's right.
Per address of business, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
you're only allowed to get a permit for X amount, and we're asking for more than that for some military application. So you're looking for exemptions and all that, and usually the conversation as it goes in Washington or in Ohio, it falls on the lobbyist. So if you don't have access, if you're not paying to
That's
grease the
right.
skids, you don't get to go anywhere. So if you're a smaller company that doesn't have a paid lobbyist sitting in
Yep.
somebody's lap,
That's right.
you don't get addressed.
That's right.
And here you, as a representative from the area, they're saying, come, tell us your problems, tell us what's going on, tell us how we can do a better job. The way it's supposed to be. We elected you.
That's
you
right.
go there and represent
That's right.
Butler County,
That's
Ohio.
exactly right.
And you're there to, and they're listening to you. And you give them some examples, some good examples. No lobby money. No one's paying anybody off. This is just
Nope.
representative government. Hey, this is a situation in my district, and I'm telling you about it. And they're not like, okay, go away. We have to go get lunch.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And
Absolutely.
you're impressed by that.
I am, because you work hard, don't you? I mean, look what you did. You don't. I'm sure you don't do these videos for the money.
I don't know. I do it because it's better to do this than to go around. You do a lot of town halls. It's much easier for me to talk to thousands of people this way. It's a better use of the time, and
Yep.
it's an economy of scale kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you do the videos because you got things you want to say,
That's right.
and you want to talk about things that are good that people wouldn't otherwise get, because you get if you're lucky, you get 4 minutes on Channel 5
That's right.
because they don't have enough time for you.
As a combat veteran and someone who never thought I would ever be in politics, I'm looking for those people like the Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Lutnick. He is.
I like Lutnick.
He's
I like
hilarious.
So you get to hang around with Lutnick.
Oh, well, he spoke to us, and he gets up there, and he's got that New York kind of gruffness.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the time he's done speaking, you're all sitting on the edge of your seat going, this guy's not going to stay. This guy is literally in there to get the job done. And he talked about Trump. This is what he said. He said Trump's like a centrifuge, that he spins around, and he goes zap. And he wants the job done. And Lutnick is like that too. And that's the kind of government we need. We need a government that isn't so comfortable sitting back, collecting a paycheck. They don't really care. They don't listen to the people. And my policy is, like you said, I'm a representative, that's my title, of my district and of the people. And that's what I see from Lutnick and Zeldin and all of the policy staff that came and spoke to us this week. It was we are a get the job done kind of people, including Secretary Kennedy's people. They were exactly the same. I've heard from 2 of his people already.
Really?
Yep, since I met with him
Now
on Wednesday morning.
this was. I mean, we're doing this on a weekend, last weekend of August.
Mm-hmm.
So you were the previous week leading up to that. The 3rd week of August, you were in DC.
I was just there this
So
past
you just landed
Tuesday
from a
and
plane,
Wednesday. Yep.
and
Mhm.
you're getting settled a little bit on business at home, and now we're talking. And this is your report, and they've talked to you this many times.
That's alrighty. Yep. Absolutely.
So follow up.
Yep.
Not like,
yep.
hey, here's this crazy lady from Ohio in my office. Get her out of here.
That's
it's, Hey,
And
I'm getting back information.
And a month later, you hear from a bureaucrat.
Oh, yeah,
No. They're already on it. And You know, and I've been working with some things. We've got some money coming into the state through the CDC, and they weren't aware of some of that money, and so they've now found that $2 billion through the CDC that doesn't necessarily need to be spent in that fashion. So the secretary's on that through HHS, and I mean, we're working on a variety of things. Not only is it EPA through this aerospace company, but it's also health-related MAHA issues and commerce in the middle of all of it. They're on it. They're on it. They're on every single issue. And I think, you know, I know the president knows he doesn't have much time. And we talked about redistricting too, by the way.
That's good.
And the
Because we have a
president,
couple seats we can get in Ohio.
and the president wants it all.
He should
does
want it
not,
all.
He does not want to give up 1 inch of anything that we need to take as a Republican Party. We need to fight for everything we've got. And our legislature too, Rich, can't weasel out or become weenies about this. I'm sorry, but we can't be weak. We got to go for the gusto, and we need to go for every single thing we can get. Because do you think, do Democrats, like, do they give us anything?
They don't give you anything.
They don't give us anything. And it is time with us at the helm that we need to go for the jugular, and we need to get what we can, because as we gain seats, we improve the likelihood that this administration is going to get that quick, real surgical incision into fixing the issues that we have, and quite frankly, helping the middle class.
So it's interesting you say all that, and we're talking about going for the jugular, and where Trump's at on this whole matter, and that's, you know, if you're business savvy, which he is, and we're seeing an administration that's filled with people who have been successful, and now they're volunteering their time. You and I volunteer a lot of our time to do what's right. It's not because you want to get a paycheck.
Nope.
We're not doing things. We're not out there lobbying to try and make some money so we can grease some skids.
That's right.
Most of the people we're talking about, people who have independently been successful, like the people you're talking about, the Trump administration, and they know how to win. So
Yes.
they brought this idea of redistricting, saying, look, and I've said it a lot of times, Democrats have only existed because they cheat. They're a disproportionate small part of the population, and they have managed to bolster themselves up like a bunch of peacocks to look like they're equal.
Yeah.
And they're really just a disenfranchised group of misfits that, you know, you don't want to throw them into a pit of snakes. You know, they're people who obviously have various degrees of mental illness, otherwise you wouldn't be a Democrat. And you got to have compassion. All right.
That's right.
But you just came from church. This is a Sunday. It's a beautiful day.
It is.
Butler County.
Beautiful Butler
Beautiful.
County Sunday.
You know,
That's
we have a
right.
lot of Republicans in Butler County.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also a lot of Republicans that go to church, and they are told, you know, not to sin, not to think badly
Love
of
our
people,
brothers
love
and
your brother,
sisters.
turn the other
Right,
cheek.
right,
If
exactly.
someone does you harm, don't do them harm. You know, if your eye makes you sin, cut it out. You know, do all these things. So when you talk about the rhino position or soft-shelled Republicans, or how we ended up in this situation, should you go get the extra couple seats in Ohio by redistricting?
Well, here's a great example. I've already heard, let's go for a 13-2 map. No. How about we go for 15-0?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, why not?
Why not?
Why not go
Why not?
for the gusto? And that's where we need the guts and the wherewithal and the courage as the Republican Party to go for everything. Not give an inch. Not give an inch. In love, of course, and kindness. But you know what? I think that's the right thing. And then you know the saying: you shoot for the moon, or you shoot for the stars, and you might land on the moon, whichever's higher. And
Well, in again, another thing I talk about a lot, talking about the previous elections and what we know now, as opposed to giving everybody the benefit of the doubt up to this point. We've learned that the election fraud has been around for a long time. There were a lot of tight seats. About 10 to 12% of the congressional races from the last election were decided by less than 1%. And some of these are areas where it's only 2,000 or 3,000 votes. And so 1% of that is a couple hundred ballots.
That's right.
And that could fit in a little box that we could put in one of these chairs.
That's right.
And if someone puts a bunch of mail-in ballots in one of those boxes and they get counted with everything else, now they're tipped over the scale and they win, and that's the Democrat.
Really great point, if you don't mind my interrupting.
Yeah.
One of the policy staff that came is the election integrity policy staff, and I forget his last name, but his first name is Brian, and he came and spoke about election integrity. That's also very important to the president. And we're looking at making sure that our federal forms, which seemed at the state level to conflict with our state registration to vote, and they actually said that the states can be stronger in their enforcement of making sure that non-citizens cannot register to vote. See, there was a misinterpretation of the federal law at the state level from some of our very own legislators that said that because the federal government was saying that on our Medicaid forms that they could register to vote, actually the state we can make our own policy and make sure they are not registered to vote. And they actually said that in our meeting this week. So I'm looking forward to making sure that we tighten that up in our election integrity.
Well, that's important because I personally, looking at the maps, talking to experts who do nothing but analyze election data all across the country, and some of them have been very wise, and they're frustrated because they know what the numbers say, precinct per precinct.
That's right.
I think you'd have plus 60 votes in the Senate right now, and at the federal level, God knows at the state level how many Republicans there would be, especially in some of these blue states. And then in Congress, you could be plus 50 easily instead of it being borderline.
That's right.
The only reason it's borderline is because Democrats have managed, and I'll say it, Democrats have managed to keep it close enough through fraud to stay borderline safe. But the true numbers, census data, doing analysis from neighborhood to neighborhood, if people really know the issues, they really know the game is being played. Because people are genuinely, if you're shopping at Target and you pass by a Democrat in the aisle and they drop their purse, they drop something, you're going to pick it up, give it to them.
Right.
People are genuinely kind and like,
right.
oh, you're a Democrat, I'm not going to talk to you.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so we give people a benefit of the doubt. We all shop at same places. We see each other at the restaurants, and we genuinely like people.
Yeah.
Give them fair shake. When it gets to political representation, that's where the skewing then becomes diabolical, and why it's so important to the Trump administration. Do you want to put the best of your society, people like Lee Zeldin, or Bobby, who he could do anything he wants in the world, and he's
that's right.
And Lupnick. These guys could make a killing if they wanted to just keep working another 10 years, make a few $10 million.
Yeah.
They don't need the money because they have it, they've done it, and they're taking the same practice to bring it to government. And as a representative who's been doing this for a long time, and as someone who has bled a lot to, say hey, I'm sacrificing a lot of my time. I mean, you have a full-time job, really, as a nurse.
That's right.
Right. So it's not like you're hanging out in Columbus and taking a check for representing, aerospace companies or something. When you need something, you get called and you're like, hey, can I get some representation? Yeah, let me go see it. And it's all within the rules. Nobody's paying anybody anything. You still have to work as a nurse.
That's right.
Because you're trying to do everything ethically.
That's right.
You do your representative jobs. You go to your town halls. We do talks like this so you can share things. You go to Washington, D.C.
That's right.
And then you come back and you have to earn some money.
I think it's important that representatives of the people maintain their civilian, if you want to say, non-government employment, so that I can be true to you, my constituents, so that I can stand on principle and I'm not indebted to the government paycheck. I think that where we get into trouble is when we have, and no offense to people who've taken this path, but when you've been a trustee and then you become a commissioner and then you go into the legislature and then you become a senator, there is something to be said about term limits in this case, because if you know that your time is limited, you have got to get in, you've got to get the job done, because you know you're going to get out.
Yep.
And I think that people that think that they can have a career in politics, those people become indebted to the government politic instead of the people they represent that voted them in. And some of these people, I look at them and I wonder, how do you keep telling this story? Because I know how you vote, and I know what kind of legislation you're sponsoring, and I also know what requests you had in my Medicaid budget to expand spending. How do you tell people that you're a conservative and you're in a more conservative district than me, and yet the people, and I think, it's one of the great things, Rich, about Ohio is our people are very trusting. they trust and believe that when you tell them you are something, that you're actually what you said you are. The politicians learn, they have a silver tongue, and they can learn how to tell the people something, and then they go vote differently. And the people are too busy working, trying to earn an income, and they trust you. And if they don't know what's truly going on, I think if I've been successful when my time is done, I will have taught the people that we are a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, and the people must keep an eye on their representation. Because if you just trust a silver-tongued politician, you're going to be taken advantage of. And that's not me.
And it's too tempting. When you get invited to go to those meetings, you're saying, hey, Jennifer Gross from 45 Ohio, come on out to Washington, D.C., and let's hang out. Shindig with all the powerful people that are in the Trump administration, and you'll get access to those people. You'll get their cell phone numbers, their emails, and you can talk to them. It's easy for that to go to people's heads, and it takes, I think, a very special, unique character, hard in representative government, something that any republic would struggle with, because it requires a personality development to be able to withstand the celebrity or the access to power status, and to be able to look at everybody and deal with them as just human beings trying to do a good job. Because all it is management of your community, management of human resources, and what human beings need in a representative government without having a top-down administrative state.
I stood with the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce at a social while I was there, and let me be clear, we paid our own transportation and our own hotels when we went. The government did not pay for that.
As it should be.
We put it, right? So if we wanted to go to D.C., the Trump administration did not pay for that. We paid for it because it's important enough to go. It's important enough to show up and listen to this policy and really partner with the federal government in the places that are going to benefit Ohio. But when I stood there, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, he's from Louisiana, and he worked for Bobby Jindal's administration. And let's suffice it to say, he was a little surprised to learn about some of the opposition and the oppression that's happening even in Ohio against like medical freedom and anti-mandate legislation. So that was really fascinating to me, because I felt like at the federal level, he's supporting my policy here, but sometimes I'm running into some issues even at the local. Not our local here, Liberty Westchester, but maybe the state level. So.
And that's the overwhelming challenge, and why it's important. And that goes back to the gerrymandering argument. How do you redistrict?
That's right.
So you want to get authentic people, Republicans or Democrats, whoever they may be. You need them in representative government because it's hard. A lot of the corruption, when you talk about corruption and you talk about greasing the skids or the money mechanisms big pharma I have on medical reform. Once insurance groups and pharmaceutical companies and the pressure of provide quarterly reports that show profit increases, how do you get that unless you can get some politicians to help steamroll your stability? And that goes against, of course, what people are trying to get in elected representative government. But if there are lobbyists, a layer of lobbyists there to protect the profit that is generated through lazy creation of a bureaucratic state.
Can we go back a little bit? I want to really open up that lobbyist thing for your listeners, especially today, because I want them to know this is happening in Columbus. Okay. So company ABC decides that they have an issue. Let's just say they want all signs to be green, random, okay? And they come and they lobby every single politician in Columbus to do green signs. And they find, now I believe there ought to be a variety of colors. They're not going to come to me because they know I believe in a variety of colors. They're going to go to the one legislator who will go, yes, all signs should be green. And they pay thousands of dollars to that lobbyist to go to every single politician in Columbus to say, yes, we want green signs. Then they find a politician who says, yes, there should be no choice. It should all be green. They find that politician to carry their legislation. And then they run the bill, they do all the witnesses, and then the politician says, look at the bill I passed. But it was all based on money. It was all based on the agenda of that particular lobby that said, we want our issue. And granted, maybe it's not a great example to say, green signs, but I'm telling you, pick the issue, whether it's big pharma, whether it's whatever issue it is. If you have the money to pay a lobbyist to come in, like your example with the aerospace company, if you have the money to pay a lobbyist $2,000 a month, they go to every legislator and they lobby for that issue. They run legislation. They hand the testimony to the legislator, who gets up there and acts like they know. But how you can find out when you ask that legislator, hey, what about this bill? And they can't speak to it. When they can't speak to a bill, they didn't write the bill. See, I write my own legislation. And let me tell you something, that's hard. The majority of my legislation is grassroots legislation standing for the people. When you are a representative who is standing for the people, that is harder.
Oh, yeah.
Do the hard work. And that's when you start getting into rhinos. Rhinos want to do the easy thing. It's bureaucracy and whatever. And
well, it's a known. You get up in the morning, you go to breakfast, you have your coffee, you talk to your 2 or 3 people before 10 o'clock, and then you do business, legislative business, and then you go to lunch, and then you think about what you're going to do, and you get home that night. And it's a routine. You get stuck in the routine, and you don't want it to change.
That's right.
And
That's right.
And as long as you've done what you can say, hey, I did a pretty good job today in my head, and if you can put that in an isolation chamber,
That's
you
right.
can feel good about it.
That's right.
And then when someone comes along, and that's why one of the reasons you're not very well liked.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm well liked among the law.
I think you're liked among certain kinds of people, but you're not very popular among people that like things to go together nicely. Now, I would also say, and there's a lot of people that I like a lot that are among those that want things to go together well. And I think, and that goes down to static intellectualism and dynamic intellectualism, and how you have a static order and you build on it with challenges to that system. It ultimately comes back to free market ideas. That's why it's important that people have, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, you don't have a gerrymander to favor just Democrats so they can have fake seats. You need a true representative grouping.
That's
if
right.
you're going to trust the market, you got to trust the market. If you want to audit the Fed, then stop manipulating the interest rates. Let the market decide health or failure.
That's
and if
right.
you're going to trust your political system, have dynamic forces that can challenge the status quo, make people answer questions. They may not like it because it means you got to talk to 2 or 3 more people before noon, before you go to lunch.
That's right.
And
That's
you
right.
might have to read that bill. You might have to go a little bit deeper on the negotiations. And then maybe some of the revenue streams that come in, a free lunch or a free vacation package or something that comes
Campaign donations.
Campaign donations.
All the people need to do is look at our ethics report and look at who's donating, and they can see where the money is coming from, and those are often the bills they're carrying. And they may not come in right away, but they'll come in a few months later so that it's not obvious. And and that's not to say that just because someone writes a check that you're definitely agreeing with them all the time. But I would say that our president is that's why there's so much coming against him.
Yep.
Because he's asking all the questions, and he's not going to shut up in color, and he's not doing, and my policy fits right in line with the president.
Well, and that's one of when over the last, going back to 2015, when I first thought that Trump would be a good president, the criticisms of it is like, well, you're supposed to be a smart guy. You're supposed to, what are you voting for him for? It's got to be Ted Cruz. And he's, it's like,
I was a Cruz supporter at first.
My first thing was,
Absolutely.
he's independently wealthy. And some of the people that I most trust that are in a political established order, no matter where they fall on static intellectualism, dynamic intellectualism, they're somewhat self-reliant because they don't need it. So they have a resistance to that layer of lobbyists who are like, hey, look at the cool little golden keys.
Hey, that's great. And that's why I work a second job, and I do that so that I can remain true to you, my constituents.
But Trump has surrounded himself with people who are independent. I like hearing from DC that you get to talk to them. My wife and I just returned from DC, and I thought it was a much different place than when anybody else has been there. With Trump in the White House, it's a completely different vibe. The whole city is just different.
We were there this week, Rich.
You were there
this
week.
I'm telling you, it was like our clock tower here in Westchester. People were milling around. There was no crime. People weren't screaming. There was no trash on the ground. And it had just been when he changed the policing. It felt safe. It felt actually right now safer than Cincinnati. People were milling around safely, smiling. I was really amazed. And then the president himself went patrolling, I guess, just 2 days ago. I'm serious. I felt safe walking around, and it was amazing.
It's cost President Trump hundreds of millions of dollars of personal wealth to do this job.
That's right.
And people don't give him credit for that. It's one of those things where you do it as a labor of love. We were there the week before they got rid of the Black Lives Matter's mural on the streets right there on 16th Street, right around all the union headquarters. We were there as the last ones to witness it, embedded in the concrete as they allowed it to go. And that was just throwing gas on a fire of potential crime and infestation that's now being cleaned up. That was only a few months ago, and now you're there, you're seeing the ramifications of that, and it comes from a person who can make clear decisions on this, who doesn't have to say, hey, paid consultant, what do you think about it? He's like, you know what, I don't, and like everybody else, I don't like that stuff there, and I want to get rid of it, and I can do it. Even if it costs me hundreds of millions of dollars, my personal opportunity cost at wealth creation, I'm going to do it.
That's right.
And that's what we're talking about here. And that's why this EPA visit that you had, I think, is so important. I think it was important that you were out there, among others that were visiting, to kind of be invited as a representative to deal with the stuff head on and have someone who actually listens and cares.
That's right.
As opposed to someone, hey, give me a check, give me a campaign donation in a roundabout way, and you come to the front of the line. You're talking about people who are just, you're the front of the line if they answer your question and they're not blowing you off. They're taking their 5 or 6 priorities and they're seeing where they fit, and they're treating everybody with as much energy as they could give.
That's right. And I think in the end, what does it mean when you get rid of bureaucracy? It increases liberty and freedom. And that's what our president's about, and that's what we're about, and that's why you do what you do, and it's why I represent District 45.
And that's good. I think that's a good place to put a cork in it. But when we talk about freedom, it goes back to the districting thing. And should you have the courage to do it? If you know there are phony numbers and false representation in the House and the Senate, federal level, statewide, we've seen the games that go on with the House Speaker up in Ohio, and how that's gone over the last 4 years or so. You know the antics, the tricks, to have freedom type people replaced with rhino type people, and how Democrats will support one or another, and the manipulation. Well, those Democrats wouldn't have that power if we watched our elections closer. And a lot of these districts where they barely won, chances are they won with mail-in ballots or illegal immigration votes, or they're not properly represented. The census gives a bolster number that gives them more seats than they should have. And if we really minded it, it would be a much more representative republic with more people, I think, like you in it, than people who are making a living off the carcasses of evil that come out of overwhelming corruption.
That's right. And
the corruption comes not from, hey, I woke up as a 4-year-old and I'm playing with my Legos and I want to grow up to become a corrupt politician. It's right. you grow up, you get elected, you feel good because you won a popularity contest. You're like, oh, I'm the prom queen, yay!
Yeah.
And then you get up there and all these people are like, hey, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. Bleh. And they're like, wow, I have power. I can talk about this at Thanksgiving dinner and it makes me feel good. So I want more of that. And then 4 or 5 months into it, you're lost.
That's right.
And now you're drinking your coffee at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're like answering only the calls from the people who can give you more of that boost of energy to your power, as opposed to just struggling it out and thinking, I got to sign a few bills and I got to get down to the hospital because I got to work the night shift, which is what you do.
That's right.
And they're not doing that, and they're trying to avoid doing that, and that's what makes them ends up being prone to corruption and what we're trying to get away from.
That's right. Amen.
So how about all that? And we're right here.
Yeah.
Beautiful Butler County. Welcome to Butler County.
TravelButlerCounty.com.
One of the greatest counties in the world, I would say. Greatest place to live.
Amen.
Great representation on all different levels. And I would say it's the heartbeat of the Republican Party.
Yes,
I dare any Republican Party anywhere to be as good as the one we have here.
No place is growing more than Southwest Ohio and Ohio.
So wonderful, and it starts with good representation. Butler County, Ohio, Jennifer Gross. This is Rich Hoffman here. I hope you enjoyed all this and find it very useful, because it's always good to hear how spaghetti's made in the kitchen.
That's right.
And we talked about a few meatballs and some spaghetti, and I think there's a lot more to do.
Yeah, there is.
It gets delivered to the dinner table for people to enjoy.
That's right. Thanks, Rich.
All right. Well, have a good day and see you later.
Bye, everybody.